they could not be asking for a better setup
To
for
the Western
what?
Conference Finals.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Because like you said, let's be real. They're a great team. Right? We know the Thunder are a great team. Nobody's doubting that. But then when you're also going to give them one, a sweep in the first round, two, I mean, both the Nuggets and Clippers are good teams, but if they're going to go 6, 7 games, and you're looking at maybe guys aren't fully healthy, maybe guys aren't playing at their best, that's only going to look good for the Thunder's opportunities here.
Yeah, I think the Thunder are an easy ticket to the Western Conference Finals. How those Western Conference Finals goes, who knows? I mean, you're looking at the other half of the bracket and the T-Wolves, Lakers, Rockets, Warriors. Warriors are playing strong against the Rockets. I think they're actually down just before half here in this game tonight, but like to win a game without Jimmy Butler, and then the Lakers, if you ask me, are struggling.
Yeah.
And so if Anthony Edwards is him, I think he'll give. I sure as hell think he is. I think they give OKC a run for their money. I'll be completely honest with you right now. I don't know if Golden State does the same. I think they have the potential to, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, we've got a solid squad going here, but you know, all it takes is a couple off nights from one or two guys, and I don't know if SGA is going to have a couple off nights.
Mm, and funny enough, it kind of seems like he already had them, which I hate to say, because when I don't know if it was game 2 or game 3 when they came out with that super slow start, like he had an off game, and they still could lean on Chet or lean on Jalen Williams or whoever else and prevail. But yeah, so maybe it is your Warriors that give them the best opportunity to fall.
I think if they do, I don't know, Anthony Edwards is playing out of his mind, but I'd like to say if they do, it's in the Western Conference Finals to these guys.
Yeah, yeah, it seems fair. I got the bracket pulled up now here. I mean, the Warriors. I mean, I know they're down 2 now, but it's back and forth. It's still early. Assuming that the Timberwolves kind of close up on Wednesday, the Warriors could have a tough time with that too.
I don't like that matchup, either of those teams in that 3-6 for the Warriors.
Okay.
I
So who do
honestly
you
would
if you're the
prefer
Warriors? I was gonna say, who do you want
I would
coming out of the other
prefer the
side?
4-5, the Nuggets
Of
Clippers.
course.
Of
Okay.
course, that, but we're the
In the
7. We're the
push.
7,
Yeah.
so I know we were pretty much tied with like 3, 4 teams there just right before the end of the season, but I definitely would prefer one of that the Kawhi Harden or Murray Jokic. Just looking at their stats and they're kind of bouncing around all over the place. They're not like Kawhi had the big 38-point game or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it was, but outside of that, they're him and Harden going 20 and 20, like
And
25,
did you see
24.
the buzzer beater by Aaron Gordon?
Dude, what? How? Just,
Just
I
silly.
mean,
To make
inch,
sure that you get it off your fingertips by
mhm,
that buzzer is crazy.
inches, milliseconds. You're talking like that was wild to tie that series too. Like that was a pivotal play, pivotal like 2 seconds of
Yeah,
basketball right there.
I was impressed. That was very cool.
But moving on to them, talking about that buzzer beater, that series tied 2-2. I think they play tomorrow, Tuesday night. 10. It'll be back at Denver, and I think the Nuggets come out 3-2 on that one. Even though it looks like the Clippers are favored currently as it stands.
Hmm. So that's that's the top side of your bracket. Obviously, your Warriors are up 2-1 playing now.
Yeah, up 2-1. Last game at home before going back to Houston. I mean, we won without Jimmy Butler in game 3, which I think was huge.
Okay.
First game back at home. Now he's back on the squad playing post that, like, what was it, like a deep gluteal contusion or
Yeah.
something?
A butt bruise.
A
Yeah.
butt bruise, yeah. So we'll see how this game ends up. We know the Warriors like to turn it up in the fourth quarter. So
True.
if they keep it close, I'd say within something like 8, maybe 10 going to the fourth, I think we might get out of San Fran up 3-1.
Yeah. You bite someone's arm off for that.
I I would. I actually would.
Man. Okay. Well, I guess on to the. So who's? I guess I should ask who is still your favorite to come out of the West? Has it changed?
What did I say last time? Did I say Golden State?
You had Golden State versus the Thunder. I think you had the Thunder in 6 in that matchup.
I think that's I'm gonna keep that locked in. If I'm putting money on it, that's what I would lock in.
Okay.
Faith, Faith has me going. Warriors in 7, but I think Thunder in 6 is reasonable.
Okay. I guess onto the East side. So we briefly touched on the Miami basketball team that wasn't really the Heat that were playing, right? Those were what we say it was like a Make a Wish Foundation or something. Um,
It was like
those guys that they led on the field, but
the lukewarm playing. I don't know.
no, we that was bad to be fair. But I think Cleveland's looked good. Indiana might close out against Milwaukee next game now that they're up 3-1.
I agree. Dame out with the torn Achilles. So now what? Um, I think it's over. This game 5 here.
Now, what I will say is, even with Dame out, Indiana's looked all right. I, I'm curious to see what that's going to look like against Cleveland. I don't I'm not saying it's going to go anywhere, but you might be looking at least a decent series.
At the point
Oh yeah, no defense being played.
totals, it's going to be a high around 18, 1.
And I
Gonna be
mean, I don't want to say it's going to go one way or the other, but I think Cleveland's the better team, and I think Cleveland will go through. But I'm hoping it's good. And then, like I said earlier, my Knicks up 3-1. Could close out tomorrow. It's back in going back to New York. They took both games in Detroit, which I was not expecting.
That's crazy. After losing one at home,
Yeah, so that does give me a little bit of hope. My issue is less about that, and even if we don't win uh, game 5, I think we close it out in 6. I'm not worried about that game. That series going 7. But then we look at Boston. Orlando was able to steal a game, kind of like we talked about, but Boston will close that out. They're 11.5 point favorites for tomorrow night, but I still think it's going to be Cleveland Boston, and then at that point, that's a coin toss. In the best way, right? That's going to be a great series. Every game's going to be a battle. That's going to be like great television. But I'll probably stick with Boston. Boston just because they have the pedigree. They did it before. They have the vets.
They've got
I
the
think that's
vets, yeah.
yeah.
I'm hoping that series is something like 7 games because that's probably going to be one of the better Eastern Conference Finals we've seen.
That's going to be like
Um,
appointment television. Like, hey, it's Tuesday night. What are you doing at 8:30?
I'm busy.
Yeah, that's going to be that plan.
I'm
It's on
busy.
my calendar. Yeah.
So I'm skipping trivia that night if that's what's going on. I'll tell you that. Um, but also a little part of me is thinking that series could go something like a 4-1 Boston.
Ooh,
They
really?
just, hey, we ain't playing around. Like, we're here. We're gonna take on the West. That was cute what you guys did all season, Cleveland, but it's playoff time.
I don't hate it. I do think that Cleveland's probably shown enough this year to at least knock at like little broad like that, but you still got to prove it.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's our basketball update. Um, but we had a much larger sporting event happen over the past weekend.
Indeed.
Um, Michael, near and dear to your heart, I know you're already planning for the 2026 draft. Do you want to catch us up on what happened?
So, first I have to say am I a sicko if I've already looked up mock drafts for next year?
Yeah, the answer is yes, but we still love you
Okay.
for it.
Hold on. I need to know. When during the draft did you start looking at mock drafts for next year? Because I already know it wasn't after the draft.
So, pretty much halfway through day 3, so like around like the end of the 5th round.
I'm proud of you.
It
Yeah,
was
that's
it
growth.
I'll
That's real
say
growth.
it was post Shador Sanders getting drafted. So,
That's late.
Yeah, that was yesterday. What are you talking about? That was this morning.
Ugh.
He was just drafted.
the draft is a big deal for me. I always on the first night of draft night, I have friends over. The entire day leading up, I watch Draft Day, the movie,
Great movie.
which this is not a movie podcast, but that world exists. That movie exists in a world where teleportation has already been invented because the Browns owner goes from New York City to Cleveland in like 40 minutes. This is the world where other NFL teams would do things based on what the Browns did, not the other way around.
Which is just not true.
And
Yeah.
it's a movie where Kevin Costner and Jennifer Gardner could produce a child. So it's completely wacky, but I still love it and I watch it every draft day. With regard to the actual draft, it was a pretty fun draft, but not the most exciting. There weren't a ton of trades. The craziest thing really was the Shorter Sander, you know, saga. And
Plummet.
if you guys want to start with that, I would love to know what your guys' opinion are.
Bro, you want to go first?
I mean, so we had we had your mock draft, right? That had him going shortly after Cam Ward. And with how this,
I was gonna say, Michael, refresh us. Where exactly did you have him?
yeah, where was it? Was it like 5?
To be fair, I had him going to the correct spot, the Cleveland Browns. It was just that in my mock draft, he went second overall.
I was gonna say,
Okay.
yeah, ESPN definitely gave you the shout out for you picked the right team. You were just like 4 days late, but you still got the right team.
I just needed Donald Trump to tweet earlier. It would have happened, but things happen.
Things happen. We had him going early, and like, while I'm pretty sure I was not necessarily critical of it, but I didn't think he was going to go that early. I just also thought maybe still first round. Second round would have surprised me a little bit. He ended up going fifth, right?
Round, yeah.
He went in
Fifth
the
round.
fifth round. I think he was the sixth or seventh quarterback taken, and he was the second quarterback that the Browns took. They drafted Dylan Gabriel in the third round, 2 rounds earlier than what they took Shador Sanders.
Yeah, and like it definitely shocked me. I wasn't ready for that. I can't imagine what he was thinking, because the way the narrative was being painted was like you were choosing Cam or you were choosing Shador, and you were choosing Cam. Like, don't get me wrong. And then the next pick got Shador because those were just the two.
Just like 1A, 1B, right? That's what you
Exactly,
choose from, yeah.
exactly. So for people like it with Tyler Show,
Um,
am I getting that name
Tyler
right?
Shug.
Yeah,
Doug,
there we
yeah.
go. Okay, say Tyler Shug. To go before him, I was like, whoa, this is just straight. Honestly, maybe a little disrespectful. And I think maybe, I don't want to try to paint it for nothing that it wasn't, but I think maybe it was like a jab at Dion and Shador himself, but we'll see what kind of stories manifest from this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to steal all your thunder. I'm just going to kind of piggyback on a couple things, but I think if you remove, and it's really hard to do, but if you remove Travis Hunter from that team, where does Colorado finish?
They
They're irrelevant.
they finish like three,
3 and
maybe four
7,
wins.
4 and
Yeah,
8, something
maybe
something
four.
silly. If you have that same team, but you remove Shador,
I think they break even.
I think sure. So I think the thing is like, is sure is he a pro level quarterback who's going to play in the NFL? Absolutely. I don't think that's ever been doubted. But is he up there with guys that teams are willing to spend high draft capital, or in like the case of some of these other guys, trade up for? I don't know. And I there's I was reading a great article about it. There's this narrative that ESPN, and specifically ESPN, I don't know, I'm sure a couple other news outlets too, that they're trying to spin it as a fall. Like, oh, he's fallen so far. Okay, but it was only ESPN that had him so high. Like they were, if you were asking or you were hearing from like NFL execs or coaches or whatever, they were always talking about him being not end of the draft, but middle rounds or a second round kind of guy, and it had to be the right fit. And he's not good enough. Where if you didn't need a quarterback, you're not going to take him. He wasn't the best player in the draft. There were all these other negatives that were adding up. But then when you hear this, oh well, he's definitely going to go 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, then he falls to the fifth, and you're like, oh man, yeah, what happened? He tumbled so far. Like, was he really that? And I'm looking at the guys who got drafted after him, quarterback wise. Quinn Ewers, was Shador Sanders a better college quarterback than Quinn Ewers?
No,
Okay, I think that's a toss up for me. Riley Leonard out of Notre Dame.
no.
I mean, college
Will
college quarterback, no, but
no, again, we can argue pro ready, but I'm talking as college. Will
Yeah.
Howard out of Ohio State.
Okay, so he also had Judkins and
Oh, Will
what's
Howard
that
had one of
freshman's
the
name?
most talented. The wide receiver
Yes.
whose name, just because you
uh,
asked me, it went on my brain.
Jeremiah Smith is
Jeremiah, yeah.
if Jeremiah Smith, who is a true freshman right now, if he was in this draft, he would have been the first overall pick right
Oh, for
now.
sure.
That's how good that guy is.
Definitely. Definitely. So I think you can make that same comparison with Shador. If you take Jeremiah Smith away, what's Will Howard?
He did have more. He did. I
Well,
will say he had more weapons on that team.
Yeah, Will Howard was on Kansas State last year, and they did absolutely nothing. So, you know, I think Shador is a better quarterback than Will Howard. You know,
Sure, and
and
that's fair.
and Nick, you mentioned it that if you're talking about college quarterbacks, there are probably a lot of guys that are better than Shador Sanders. And the first time we talked a lot about none of the guys in this draft are probably first round talents. We said it repeatedly. Do
Yeah.
we think they're first round quarterbacks? No. Do they think they'll go in the first round? Probably.
Yes, yeah.
And I there's I'm not sure which draft you guys watched, but if you watched the one on ESPN, Mel Kiper was having like an aneurysm for 3 days about
Oh,
this.
I'm so glad you brought this up.
And
Let's hear it.
the first the first round, I don't think he should have been that upset because he's not a first round quarterback. Should he have gone in the first round? There are a few teams I could name that could probably use a Shador Sanders as a starter right now. But you know, you drop out of the first round, I get it. In the second round and the third round, I think the thing that made Mel Kiper go crazy was the fact that guys like Dylan Gabriel and Jalen Melrose were getting drafted ahead of him
Dude,
because
the Jalen
Terrell,
Milrow one,
did you see Terrell? Did you see him go crazy on air?
I did not see him go crazy on air, but I will tell you, when I was at work and that Jalen Milrow pick came through, I was pissed. I was pissed for Sanders.
um,
it's
well,
like
you need to make like minutes of time, and it's all over the internet. But basically, Mel Kiper, it's like during, and I know Michael's already laughing. It's during the draft coverage. Like a pick comes in, and he's basically just like segueing away from whatever kid just had his like professional dream realized, and he's just complaining about Shador not being drafted. And then the second clip is finally when Shador does. He talks so long that they don't even talk about the next two picks after Shador. Like you see the little the little icon on the bottom, like, oh, the next pick came in, and the little ESPN graphic explains it all, and they don't even spend time talking about it because Mel Kiper is just, well,
Ranting.
the NFL, blah blah blah, this and that, and it's like everybody else on the panel is like, okay, that's not even what we're talking about, dude. So yeah, you need to.
girl,
It went
it
viral.
it got so bad that on Twitter, people were posting pictures of like basically like text message between a guy and a girl, and it's like, "Do you really love me?" And then the guy sends a picture of Mel Kiper at the
Mel
draft,
Kiper.
and she goes, "What does that mean?" And the guy goes, "I'd go to war for you."
That's great.
I did see one, and it was just some critic saying, like, this is the guy criticizing the Shador Sanders pick right now, and it was him talking bad about Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes and the other two I can't remember, but like those, I definitely saw those two names on there where he had said like these guys weren't worth the picks, and then you look at Patrick Mahomes now, and it's like he runs the NFL and the officiating crew. Like you can't get any more goat than that,
I
you know.
I I do have a take, and we'll get back to talk about the picks in a second. But I do have a take that I think that draft coverage, to Michael's entire existence, has kind of become such a thing of its own that it's almost, and not quite, but it's almost removed from the game. Like it's almost not even about the game anymore. It becomes about hand size and what's your 40 and all these other like details that go
Metrics,
into it.
yeah.
Yeah, the metrics, right? And and don't get me wrong, it's so extensive, and you have to break down film and this and that. But you almost lose that like the natural. I don't not natural
What
is the wrong
happens when they
word.
step on the field?
Yeah. So when you have these guys like a Mel Kiper or these other guys who've been doing this for decades, like they're not the Bible. Like they're gonna get some wrong, but all you'll see is, oh well, who does everyone's going to follow who this one person thinks is going to take it number one. But like, that's not who's sitting in Tennessee's draft room.
Yeah. Surrounded
So
by all the other athletes, you know.
exactly. So like, while I do think that there does need to be a little bit of stock taken for what these guys say, who like I said, are analysis experts that have been doing this for decades, like that's not going to be how it falls every time. So these guys who were in the room actually making these decisions, if they didn't think that Shador was a good fit, or they didn't think they needed the the rest of the the rest of the package that comes with him, I'm not taking him.
And the last thing I want to say about like the whole media, basically, I'll call it a meltdown, but whole circus around the
Yeah, circus is
Shador
a great word.
fall is like really think about the draft as like a TV product. It's 3 days. Day one starts at 8 o'clock and it doesn't end past midnight. That's 4 hours. Day two starts at 7 p.m. and doesn't finish till 11. That's another 4 hours.
It's prime time
Day
too.
three starts at 12 o'clock and doesn't end for 4 to 5 hours. These guys have to fill effectively 12 hours of television, basically talking about one thing over 3 days. It's a lot.
It's
So,
true.
you know,
It's a great point.
you kind of when you do make an evaluation and Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, these kind of guys, the draft guys, you know, you want to kind of justify your existence.
Oh,
So
sure.
if if you're bad at evaluation, why are you on TV? You got to do something that kind of shows why you do this. And I make drafts every year, and I don't take it seriously. I got almost everything wrong by I had Shore Sanders two
Hey,
overall.
you had Shador to the
No
Browns.
big deal. Yeah, but it should be an exercise of like team concept and like how to draft more than who to you actually have drafting. So that's you know with regard to the actual pick and fall of Shador, I thought the NFL was the league where if you have talent, people will find you. That was
Okay,
the
all
whole,
right. If you have talent here, come on.
it,
There's no talent in the
it
NFL. We all know this.
but like, that whole adage where it's like, oh, they'll find talent everywhere. That's the point of the draft. Even if you're going to a school with, as a 0 star, if you do well enough, they'll find you. And then you have this guy who has a lot of things around him, but is clearly an NFL player, clearly an NFL quarterback.
Yes.
Every team said no. What are we doing here? That's my issue with it. And the Browns, we're going to talk about winners and losers. The Browns kind of are both because they make the trade moving from 2 to 5 and basically pick up a second round pick and a first rounder next year from the Jaguars, who are historically terrible. That's a good move. And then you basically blow the rest of your draft. It's insane. Like I don't know how you could be so good and so bad at the same time.
I want to get into the winners and losers. I think the last thing for the Shador is is there a here's a question for the two of you. Is there a comp that comes to mind in either football or I guess if there's another sport you could think of maybe like basketball where it was this surefire you knew he was going to the league. I don't think the question is he going or not. It's more do you want him on your team? And I think the closest I could think was like the Ball brothers because there was such a media circus is the word I'm going to use with Dad and with everything else and Big Baller Brand and but they both still went top five. So and granted, Lavar did like get out of the way and the kids just got to play, but that's if I'm a team, if I am let's see, let's who picked a quarterback ahead of them. If I'm the Seahawks, and I'm picking the 28th pick in the third round, and you end up taking Jalen Milrow, and you're like, hey, I need a quarterback. He's not going to start, right? Because we just signed uh, Sam Darnold. So he's going to be a backup maybe for a year or two. Maybe eventually we can kind of lead him in. And I'm looking at who is the guy that I want to take. Jalen Milrow, who had a pretty good Alabama career, had a couple of highlight games, had a couple of games where he was kind of disappeared, but I'm probably taking Jalen Milrow over everybody else that's on the board.
To answer your question, I don't think we've ever seen something like this before, where there's a guy who clearly belongs talent wise, but then just completely falls off the face of the earth. And the one guy I thought of, and let me, I can't remember his name, so I'm going to Google it. Uh, he was the defensive player I've seen, and right before the draft in the NFL, he came out as gay. Do you remember him?
Oh, Missouri. He was the Missouri linebacker.
Yeah.
Um, no, but I know exactly who you're thinking about.
So you remember he was like an all SEC player.
Yep.
Michael Sam. There we go.
Thank you. Yep.
He was an all SEC player. Basically, it comes out before the draft that he's gay, and then all of a sudden he just drops. That's like literally the only kind of comp I could possibly think of. And that was at a time where the NFL was still afraid of, having a gay player. That's that's like in the NFL,
Yeah.
that's the only
I
thing I
think
can think of.
the NFL is still afraid of that. I don't think that's changed.
That was a long time ago. That was probably almost
I would
more
say
than 10 years ago
2012,
at this point.
2012, 2013 is probably my guess. Yeah, I remember that though. That was because he was a beast of a defensive player.
He won, I'm pretty sure, co-defensive player of the year in the SEC when the SEC was absolutely balling.
Mm.
Yeah, that this really has not happened before. Um, but we've talked enough Shador. After Mel Kiper talked for 12 hours about it, we can probably stop talking about it.
Fair.
So, you want to move on to winners and losers?
Let's do it.
So, I have one super big winner,
Okay.
and I have one big winner and I have one little winner. So, the big winner is the Dallas Cowboys. I think they crushed this draft, absolutely crushed it. In the first round, they took Tyler Booker, the guard out of Alabama, and this dude is an absolute star. He's a guard, again, a guard. He's gonna start this year, and I'm pretty sure if he doesn't get injured, he's gonna start for 14 years, retire, and then get into the Hall of Fame.
Wow, that's no pressure. Okay.
He's
Easy
just
peasy.
like,
Yeah.
Easy, yeah.
yeah, yeah. The You don't draft guards high, and 12 was very rich, but this dude just seems like an absolute stud. In the second round, they got the edge rusher out of Boston College, Donovan Ezaraku, and he's probably not going to start on Dallas because they have a guy named Micah Parsons who rushes the passer. So he might not start, but he's definitely going to contribute. And then they got another guy out of East Carolina, Siobhan Ravel, and he is really good. A corner, he could probably start. And then in the fifth round, I don't believe fifth, sixth, and seventh round picks really mean anything. It's depth at most, maybe special teams. But one position that does matter is running back. And they got Jaden Blue out of Texas. And he was part of that Texas running offense that absolutely crushed and led their way through the playoff. I think that was just a stellar draft.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Are they
No,
are they making the playoffs?
I mean, they still have Dak Prescott as their quarterback. You can only do so much.
No, no is the answer. Yeah.
So Nick, are you sitting down right now?
I am. I am seated.
You want to know my little winner?
Oh boy, don't tell me.
It is your New York Jets.
Please tell me how.
So, in not to toot my own horn, but I did have them taking Armand Membu in the first round,
This is
and
true. You're right. You're now 2 for 2 between them, and Shador. Yeah.
and the we talked a lot about Membu during the pre-draft pod, and he's a day one starter. If he doesn't, then that's a really bad sign because the Jets really don't have another guy on their roster who should be better than him. Now, the Jets have a left tackle and a right tackle and a pretty good set of guards. They should have a good offensive line for the first time, probably since DeBrickashaw Ferguson was playing left tackle for them.
Oof. Loved me some DeBrickashaw Ferguson.
Hall of Fame name. Probably not a Hall of Fame player, but a Hall of Fame name.
Actually think he's in the. I think the Jets retired his jersey.
Is that more about him or is that more about the Jets?
I think it's more about the name because that looks so sweet on Ferguson on the back. Pff. Anyways, continue.
Ferguson isn't even the best part of his name. His first name is DeBrickashaw.
Yeah, but you can't put DeBrickashaw on the back of the jersey.
Sure you can.
Why not? They did it for Yao.
Yeah, you got me there.
So first round pick, it was very chalk, but you nailed it. And I during this draft, I was actually thinking about it because I wrote down some things about the draft. Yeah, there's some things I said pre-draft and I still think they're true, but you know, good teams aren't afraid to draft good players. I said that a bunch of times during the pre-draft pod, but it's still true. If you shouldn't be afraid to draft a good guy, and the Jets actually did. I'll also say that in the NFL draft, there is no such thing as a team that got unlucky. You sometimes hear this when a guy goes one pick before your team, and you're like, oh, I wish I had that guy. But I don't think teams get unlucky. I think there are teams that do get lucky with how the draft plays out. But when a team has a bad draft, it's usually because they made bad decisions, not because they were unlucky.
Mm.
Flip to the other side, teams do get lucky with who falls to them. Armand Membu, second best tackle. He's going to be a right tackle for the Jets for probably, at least the entire rookie contract. If he gets a second contract, he'll still be there, if the Jets are smart enough to re-sign him. The second round pick, they drafted Mason Taylor, who is Jason Taylor's son, um, tight end out of LSU. This year's tight end class was pretty stacked. He had two go in the first round. I think two or three go in the second. Mason Taylor, if you didn't have two just absolute studs go in the first round, Mason Taylor would probably be a first round pick
Mm.
just
Okay.
because of how good he is. He was on LSU. LSU had his entire time there, probably had about four NFL wide receivers go through there. So he was probably a victim of team success where, if you have star wide receivers, you're probably not throwing to tight ends. But he is that good, and he's probably going to be the starting tight end for the Jets this year. And
I'm out about it.
from FSU cornerback Zaire Thomas. You know, he came from a team that went 2-10. You can't, brag too much about that, but he's an absolute stud. He's probably going to be at least a contributor in the secondary in year one, and honestly could fight for the starting job opposite of Sauce. Um, and then for the rest of the picks, you got Arian Smith, who is an absolute speedster out of Georgia. If he can figure out how to use his hands in a way to catch a ball, he'd be really good. They got Malachi Moore, just a free, a
If
strong
football player
safety out of
X could
I'm
Alabama.
learn
so,
how to catch a
sorry.
ball,
That took a second to sit in.
I should have laid out. I knew it was funny, but I was like, I'm just gonna keep rolling in case it in case
No,
it flops.
it
if
was
only this
there. It was
quarterback
just
knew
a
how to throw a
delayed,
football.
delayed. Goodness gracious.
So they also took Malachi Moore out of Alabama, and in the fourth round, you're not expecting a starter. He's probably gonna be a third or fourth safety, but if you want to have a good team, Nick, and is it my understanding that you don't want the Jets to be good?
It is.
Well, a good way to be
Unfortunately,
good,
but that hasn't changed.
yeah, a good way to be good is to have just quality NFL players on your team. And the Jets probably got two starters out of this draft, but definitely five guys that are going to contribute. I really like their draft. I'm a Dolphins fan. I would have loved probably all of those picks instead of the picks the Dolphins got, but you know what? Like I said, there's no unlucky teams. There's just teams that make bad decisions and then teams that pick good players.
um. Okay, so you have Jets for your little win, Cowboys for the big win, and then Turrel, who do you have? Who was your I don't know favorite class, favorite team?
Ooh. Um, I only watched the first couple rounds. I'll be honest. Once it got to
Are you
three,
telling me
four,
you didn't
five,
follow?
I
You
was
didn't
going
follow
on
the
the
seventh
notifications.
round? What?
I'm not one of those. No offense,
Sickos?
Weiser.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah, this isn't my
About to slander me.
Bridgerton, my The Office, my The Last of Us. By the way, fire. Just throw that in there.
Told
Jeez, I
you.
did.
Told
Hey,
you.
I didn't watch the. I didn't watch the most recent one. We're watching it together. But we watched 1 and 2, and good lord.
Three's
Um,
good. Three's more of a setup episode, but
bet. So it's gonna
there's
get
still
crazy.
there's still some good stuff.
Based off my early round analysis, I kind of really like what the Jags did.
Mm.
I really like what the Jags did because we knew if he wasn't one, he was two, and for them to go out and get a cat like Travis Hunter for Trevor Lawrence, and hopefully we'll see the Jags do some good things this year.
Yeah, Jags were on my list as well. And I have two reasons. I went so after we texted and we said, hey, what do we want to do about the winners and losers? I went less of like the traditional route of looking at all the players that a team, and I went by like who were my favorite college players that I enjoy like watching, and like what are whether or not they have a great professional career, and just those are like my hype players. Like I will always tune in and root for player X, and I think Hunter to the Jags is going to go great. The city is excited. Whether or not that turns around the franchise, I think it was smart of them to at least show we're ready to take the next step.
We're making moves. Like
Exactly.
we're trying to
Yeah.
make moves. You're not trading away Luka Doncic.
Oh, Dallas. Oh
Just,
boy.
just saying.
It's a stray. Um, I don't have any hate for the Giants, but like getting Carter and then trading into the first round and picking up Jackson Dart, whether or not it's the right move, that says something. That says, hey, we think we know what the problem is and we're willing to do something to fix it. I think that's exciting. And I'm gonna stick with New York because them also picking up Cam Scatabo, sorry.
Yeah, that dude is a engine.
Dude, what?
Definition of a muscle hamster right there.
And
Like,
I think I said is he's 5'10", 215. And then who was they had a rookie running back this year who had a good year. But whether or not that team is going to be good, I'm curious. Like, yeah, sure, I'll tune in to watch a bunch of rookies on offense try to figure it out with just big dudes and Jackson Dart that has never slid in his collegiate career and just wants to run through a wall. Like, count me in. And then the only other, I mean, I thought New England did really well with the holes that they needed to fill. But I think picking up Travion Henderson in the second round, I, to me, I think that there were some teams who made some smart moves. But yes, I'm glad you highlighted the Jets because I'll always take a good draft. So I wanted to. This is what I asked before. Which? Well, I don't know. We can open it up to any round, but Turrel and I probably should stick to the first round because we'll know those guys. Which of these guys that were drafted is like certified Hall of Famer?
So we should make this the non Travis Hunter division because that is like the most obvious pick. He's clearly the best
That's
player, and if he can actually play both ways, he's gonna have a bust in Canton.
All right, fine.
Travis
We'll
Hunter,
do
number
everybody
one.
but
Who's
Travis
getting
Hunter.
inducted the year after?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I said it earlier, but the Dallas's first round pick, Booker, the guard out of Alabama. You know, guards aren't sexy. It's actually really hard to make the as a guard simply because the only time anyone ever sees you is when you fuck up. So it's hard to do it, but I think he's good enough to do it. And then when I think about Hall of Fame, I think about a few things. Is a quarterback in this draft going to be a Hall of Famer? I would probably say no. Am I good enough to evaluate an offensive tackle to know whether he's going to be a Hall of Famer? Probably not. If I was, I'd probably be working for a team. So I look at guys like defensive ends, wide receivers, you know, honestly, maybe even running backs. And you don't have to do that much to make the Hall of Fame as a running back anymore because of how short careers have gotten. Ashton
You like
Genty, would
Genty?
you like to
Dude.
step onto the stage? You know,
Ah,
do do I
Class of
love the
2040. Yeah.
do I love the pick at the spot? I'll be honest with you, I don't. But if you draft an absolute stud at running back, it's a ceiling raiser. You know, the Raiders traded for oh my god, what's his name?
Fun. Who are you
Quarterback
talking about?
from Seattle. Come on,
Oh, Geno Smith.
Geno Smith, your favorite guy, Hall of Famer.
It's Hall of Famer. A broken jaw Hall of Famer. Yeah.
They traded for him. You know, long term, is that a great decision? He's probably not going to be on the team in 3 years, but you know what? If you draft a running back in the first round, you're trying to win right now. And I commend them for that.
And then who is your certified bust is not going to be in the league in, or I shouldn't say not going to be in the league, but who's not going to live up to their spot?
I don't want to do this
Dylan
to him
Gabriel.
because
It's Cam Ward.
well, it's not Cam Ward. You know, if we
It's
want to
also
do the
Ashton
entire
Genty.
draft, that'd be
Look,
hilarious.
putting a dollar
I,
down
I
on
wish I
both
thought of
ends.
that. No, if we're doing the entire draft, I think Dylan Gabriel is the bust of all busts. He was the third round pick going to the Browns. He's not even the best quarterback they drafted. That's Shador Sanders. We're not going to keep talking about him. But he's just not an NFL player. I don't go my mocks all the way out to like fifth, sixth, seventh round, but like he was gonna be like a Quinn Ewers level, like maybe a sixth, early seventh round pick. Because he has a noodle arm, he's small,
Oh,
you
look at
know.
oh boy. At least let him defend
He
himself.
played for UCF, transferred to Oklahoma. I watched him literally hit his head so hard on the ground during one game that I thought he died. And then he transferred to Oregon for one last year, got a huge paycheck, made it to the playoffs, went undefeated, and they got absolutely crushed by Ohio State, by a team
Facts.
with actual NFL players on.
Facts. Yeah,
Got
that's
crushed by
fair.
them.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, Dylan Gabriel, you're probably a practice squad player, but you know what? You got a third round pick and you
A
got a very
paycheck.
nice paycheck from both
Yeah.
Oregon and your signing bonus.
A paycheck.
Dylan
Yeah.
Gabriel, get ready to learn unemployment.
Or invest.
Larry, get ready to learn Canada, buddy.
Yeah. I think Oregon has a very good way of, I don't want to say hiding their athletes, but
Yeah, you could say
like
that.
I don't it's not really hiding though. It's just that I guess highlighting their strengths, their system that they got for offense, like does a really good job of emphasizing their player strengths and playing around their player strengths. And like we saw it in Mariota,
Hmm.
he they beat the dog out of Florida State and then they ended up losing to also Ohio State, by the way. Um, but then he gets to the league and is was more than what Dylan Gabriel was probably going to be, but
He also won a Heisman.
wasn't it all yep, also a Heisman. Um, didn't really bring all the funk and moxie that he had at Oregon. And so I think Oregon's offensive system is really good for college football.
Okay,
And like
that's
if
fair.
you want to hop on the Xbox or PlayStation and play NCAA, fantastic. But as far as converting that talent to NFL talent, it's lacking. And I think honestly that's part of the reason why they're lacking championships too.
Oof.
So
Terrell Kuiper Jr. over
hey, I'm
here.
just saying.
So speaking, who do you have? Who's your bust of the draft and your certified Hall of
Well,
Fame lock?
I just took a quick look just to refresh my mind of the ones and out of all the players I saw in that first and second round, I don't know if I should be like honored that this was my pick too, but literally what Weitzner said in Ashton Genty. Like I watched this guy at Boise tear it up. And I said Cam Scatterbo's an engine. This guy was the freaking engine of that team. And honestly, like if there were a couple of the guys on that squad, they may have made Final Four for college football. Because if I do remember correctly, they pretty much tamed him in that. I don't remember
Penn
what
State.
team yeah, Penn State. They pretty
Yeah.
much tamed him, and then like Penn State was a great football team too. So, um, I think if we stay healthy, right, and he's on the Raiders, so I don't know what they're gonna do, but maybe get traded, have a good rookie season, um, and maybe get traded after the rookie contract to like a Chiefs or someone who can contend. I really like Ashton Genty, and going off what just tailing off what Weitzner said, the running back careers are very short, and running backs in the league, if you play fantasy at all, that they don't really produce much with these high octane, quarterback receiver combos. But I think he does stand a good chance. Um, Bust. I mean, I was kind of joking when I said Dylan Gabriel, but not really. Um, I mean, but you draft two quarterbacks, and like what, like you can't play them both. I mean, unless they do, like, but you
Ooh,
can't
two
really
quarterback
play.
system. Ooh, look at you
We're
revolutionizing the game.
this isn't 7v7 though. Do that. Um, it just doesn't work. The offensive flow and whatnot. So yeah, I think we all know that he's going to be a bust for sure. I mean, we'll see if he even gets PT. Um, but I don't know. Who do you got, Nick?
So my certified lock is in. I'm putting money down on a future child's college fund into this player's
Jesus.
Hall of Fame chances. I have a good feeling about a certain wide receiver who isn't Heisman winner from Colorado, Travis Hunter. But I do think that I have Tet McMillan. And the reason that I have him 6'4" coming out of Arizona, I think he just looked pro ready. And for me, the wide receiver position is so like, I know there's lots of different like archetypes, but to me, it really comes down to the short, fast guys who play in the slot, the tall, skinny guys that play in the slot, or the tall, big guys that play on the outside of the field. And when you're consistently looking at these teams who are making trades for number one wide receivers, or who are you drafting to be able to do that, and who are these guys that are eating up all the targets and yards and touchdowns, it's either your slot position guys who are kind of replaceable in the nicest way, or it's your big number one option wide receiver who plays on the outside. Right? So think about the Michael Thomas years that he had, or the Evans down in Tampa.
Evans,
yeah, exactly. Who is still doing that. And if you are, not just for fantasy purposes, but like if you're drafting a team, you're not doing anything without a number one wide receiver.
No.
And you see these teams that try to do it year after year and don't have that superstar talent. Now, again, he's going to a Carolina team that needs a lot of help. So I don't know if that's the best place for him, but I do think, like you said, Mike Evans, he was pulling in 1,000-yard seasons on bad teams.
He's done 1,000 yards, I'm pretty sure, every season he's played.
I think he's either at 10 or 11 straight years.
It's like 11, yeah. And like Tampa was not
those
good
were bad
11
teams.
years ago.
No, he had awful quarterbacks, and he was still able to make sure I'm getting open, I'm beating my defender. It does not matter who's throwing me the ball. And if you're going to be that kind of player, your quarterback's going to find you, or you're going to get at least opportunities. Especially if you're a team like Carolina who could be bad, and you're playing from behind, you're not going to run the ball. Your quarterback's going to be throwing the ball 40, 50 times a game. So I think that's a good fit for a player like him to go up, win the jump balls, win the 50-50s, and just get to show out. To get one contract, and then he's going to get snapped up by like Kansas City, and he's going to be like 4 championships for Kansas City. Like, it's going to be something stupid. Like, oh wow, why didn't he work out in Carolina? Oh wait, that's because he's now at 1,200 yards a year. So I thought it was interesting when you're looking at who were the first round weapons on offense for these teams, and it's tight end, Travis Hunter, and McMillan. Before you get into the late teens, and I remember early in the draft process, teams were flirting with him going as high as like 5. So for him to still make a 7 and go top 10, I think is a testament to the kind of season or career he could have. I did have some honorable mentions though.
Before you move on, I just
Hit
have to tell you the funniest observation I've had about Turrel McMillan. So he went to Arizona, and he had the opportunity to transfer and get a big contract, but instead he stayed because he wanted to play with his boy, his quarterback, Noah Fafita, for one more year. Okay. Him and Noah Fafita both went to the same high school and then went to Arizona. Okay. Noah Fafita is 5'10". And now he's going to Carolina to play with Bryce Young, who
also 5'10".
Let's see what he's listed at, because it's tiny. So he's going to have basically every point in his career, high school, college,
He was a short quarterback.
He's going to play with a 5'10" quarterback who he can't see over the offensive line.
It's just, hey, I'm just going to chuck it up there for Ted and see if he'll make the catch.
That's why he's been so good. He's the only player that his quarterback can actually see.
That's funny. No, that's a good point. Yeah, I don't know. I have a funny feeling about him. But I have two honorable mentions, and they are two defensive players, and they did both come at the end of the first round. And the first one is Malachi Starks going to the Baltimore Ravens, and the second one is Jihad Campbell going to the Eagles. And I think this has more to do with the organization and like the history of success that they have proven over the previous drafts and prospects and guys who have come through the building. They are able to find the players that have the right tools and just put them with the best coaches, with the best schemes and whatever else, and get the most production out of them. So those are kind of guys who could they have potentially fallen to the second round? Sure, but instead they said no, we're the right fit for them. We'll make sure they're going to flourish here, and I would not be surprised if those guys are you're hearing their names constantly throughout the year, and they're going to be a question one day. Oh yeah, they were in the first round, but they were late.
Nick, Stark, and Campbell are the two guys that I thought of when I wrote down that there's no unlucky teams. There's just teams that get lucky and then teams that make things happen. The perfect example. The Ravens, they got lucky. Stark fell, but then they took him because they weren't afraid of drafting a good player. You flip it to the other side, and Campbell, he was injured, but he's an absolute stud. He falls. The Eagles actually traded up one pick. They flopped with the Chiefs because apparently other teams have been calling the Chiefs trying to trade up for him. And the Eagles, they wanted him and they made it happen. And they didn't get lucky, they made it happen. So you could say, oh, a team in the second round wanted Campbell and they got unlucky. No, they actually just didn't make things happen. They let him get taken by someone else, even though they wanted him. And I love that you identified those two guys because they perfect fits with the franchise, perfect examples of how a draft, you can get lucky or you can make things happen. But if you don't do either, you're just gonna have a bad draft.
You're telling me I know ball. I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna sleep tight tonight. No, why? Yeah, I appreciate that, but that's kind of. I was thinking the same thing. This team just do it year after year, and they clearly know what they're doing. My bust. I don't have a certified one, but I have an option between two players, and there's no way both of them are good. They
Nick,
both
I
came in
think
the
you
first
should
round.
you should present this as if you want us to select which one's going to be the bust, and you have to
Ooh.
argue both sides.
Okay, here we go. Both players were selected in the same round. Both players play the same position. Can I take this one more? What else comparisons can I make here? Both players played in the same conference in college. Okay. Player A only went a handful of picks before player B, but player B was projected to go higher. Probably all I got here. There's no way that both of them are going to be good. This is not traditionally a position that these guys are taking that high.
So I think you're going Colston Loveland and Tyler
Of course I
Warren.
am. Of course it's tight ends.
Yep.
There's no way that you have two top 15 picks that are going to be tight ends and they're both going to land. That doesn't happen. Now, I honestly, I can't argue for one or the other. You could flip a coin, but my point here is one of these guys is going to be really, really good, and the other one isn't. And that sucks if you're the other guy, but there's no way.
Nick, I could probably answer this for you by asking you a single question. What's the likelihood that the Bears drafted a stud in the first round?
See, I would have said low, but I do feel like the Bears are trying to turn this cruise ship of a train wreck around. I don't know if they did it this year, but I'd like to give them a chance. I'm leaning towards Tyler Warren not working out because who is throwing to him in Indianapolis? Right now, it's who? I don't even know who the top of their depth chart is going to be for day one. So could he block?
Ready?
Sure. Is Jonathan Taylor going to have a great year? Sure. I don't know how he's going to catch passes.
I actually have a galaxy brain theory for you.
Oof.
So Tyler Warren was a quarterback in high school.
Oh, stop
He's
it.
played Wildcat snaps at Penn State. Galaxy brain, because right now would probably be the starter at quarterback, but he got benched, I think, 3 times last year. Richardson is an athletic freak. What if they do the old switcheroo? Richardson at tight end, Warren at quarterback.
Stop.
6'6", 256. Oh boy. Little tush push with Tyler Warren. Oh my goodness.
Woo!
I don't know. No, I think it's just it
No,
is. It's a fun time of year. It's a fun time to try to project it out for like what I mean, we're what 4 months from preseason? 4 months from the
It's too
Hall of
long.
Fame game?
everyone is undefeated right now.
Facts.
Nobody more so than my Jets, yeah. So now that we've and we'll leave it off on this, but now that we've had our draft, now that we've kind of seen which teams are serious and who wants to try to plug the holes that they have, I want your way too early Super Bowl matchup. Don't give me who the winner is. So, Michael, who do you got? Who's your AFC and NFC champs?
So here's a betting tip for you as well. Did you know you can bet on the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl right now and get something close to 10-1 odds? But if the playoffs started, you would get nothing close to that. So until Patrick Mahomes either retires or literally ceases living, I'm going to pick the Chiefs every single year because the Bills are cute. Josh Allen has a very attractive wife, but he can have that league MVP and see you outside in the second round. So I think the Chiefs are again, unless and until someone literally murders Patrick Mahomes,
Jesus
I'm going to pick
Christ.
him every single year.
Okay, who's coming out on the other side?
On the other side, everything in my being is like the Eagles are so damn good and they got so much better in the draft, but I don't want to pick the same old, you know, rematch third time, in the past 4 years.
What is this?
Boring.
Warriors, Cavs? Like, come
Yeah,
on.
come on, be original. Come on.
Honestly, the you make that joke, but these are like the level of teams that we're dealing with. Are
No,
those
you're not
kind
wrong.
of,
You're not
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
you know, but I'll try to get creative. Give me a second. I'm
Let's
going
get
to
creative.
no. You know what? This is all canceled. We're done here.
Okay, well, I don't
Oh,
have
no,
either of the last year's teams in my two early predictions.
I
so
don't either.
I got my NFC team.
What do you got?
Is there a chance that Washington's actually like nasty next year?
Yes, there is a chance,
Yes, sir.
Oh,
and you're getting warmer.
I'll say Chiefs Washington. I know that's a leap. I just didn't want to do Eagles again. It was too boring.
Be a fun matchup. Same colors too on both sides. Okay. Did you see the news? The Commanders are moving to DC now.
Yeah, maybe that's the good vibes they needed.
I feel like they've been all good vibes since the new owner took over. So it wouldn't surprise me. It would not surprise me if uh, Oh God, what's the quarterback's name? I'm thinking Milrow. It's not Milrow. Only because Turrell was talking about that.
Hmm. Are you sure about that, Nick?
I don't know why I'm
Athletic
blanking.
athletic quarterbacks from the South.
Oh my God, just what's his name?
Jaden Daniels.
Daniels. I was
Bro, what?
thinking Jalen. It would not surprise me if Jaden Daniels took the leap as you get the first year down, you kind of get to try it again. Add a couple skill players around him. We saw. I mean, the game was not competitive against the Eagles, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did try to take it to him next year.
I mean, they almost. I say almost, but they almost took it to him this year.
Uh, Besides, what was it? It was like 2 fumbles and an interception, were the turnovers that really kind of blew the game open. But besides that, it was tight enough.
Yeah, I mean, I do remember a quarterback with a couple turnovers in a Super Bowl that turned around and won it soon after.
One,
Jalen Hurts.
this is true.
I think it was like a third, fourth quarter fumble, I think. That, the game was they were going shot for shot, blow for blow. And then that happened, a couple more events took a turn and ended up losing it.
Who are your teams that are meeting in the Super Bowl next year?
My Super Bowl matchup this year out of the AFC, I have the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay.
I got Lamar finally going out and getting him. And then out of the NFC, I also had the Washington Commanders. I think
Okay.
Jaden Daniels had such a good rookie season. And to say, you know, warm up round would be an understatement because he made it to the NFC Championship and came up short to the Super Bowl champions. So um, I think it's going to be those two.
So I got a couple of teams that that's clearly my theme today. I can't lock it on two, but I do think out of the
You
AFC,
make us pick two, and then you're like, I have about
I'll
six
pick
teams that can make the
six.
I got
Super
a
Yeah,
list of
Bowl.
7. I got 8.
I'll pick the other 16 teams in the
Top
conference.
32 teams
No,
in the NFL.
Yeah, I got the
someone's
playoff
got a shot.
bracket made out.
I mean, hey, I've got UGA making it to the Super Bowl. So, no, I think for me, I'm with you, Terrell, on Baltimore, but it's not who I picked. For the AFC, I have the best quarterback wide receiver duo. I have the Cincinnati Bengals,
I love that. And
and
I want to believe it, but I need to see it.
their defense was awful. They didn't get off to the best start on offense, but once they got rolling, they were putting up crazy numbers. So I think if you could do that, they fired a couple coaches, make a couple changes. That's a team that will, that they're going to challenge the Ravens for the division. And I think if they can secure a top 2 or 3 seed in the AFC and make sure that they're playing Kansas City, I do think that you're looking at a great game between two teams that I think the Bengals could win. That's where I'm leaning here. For the NFC, I've got 2 teams that are both in the same division here. I'm leaning towards one, but I think the other one's kind of a dark horse, and that's the Lions and Packers. I think the
Go
Lions,
Pack, go.
yeah, I think the Lions have had the last couple of years, hey, like they're knocking on the door. But the Packers looked good last year.
They did.
And then
They
you're adding another weapon on offense with Matthew Golden. You're giving another year for that defense to try to gel together. Jordan Love, another year under his belt. I'm going to officially say the Lions here, but I don't know. I do think the Eagles are going to have more competition. I guess I'll say that. But we'll see. Like we said, 4 months. Count it down. Anything else you guys got?
I do not. Derby's this Saturday. If you wanna just just take a look at the horses' names, That's honestly mostly my favorite part of all this. They got a horse in there this weekend, Flaming Mohawk.
Ooh.
So he's got 30-1 odds, but if you're looking to put money on a dark horse, just go based off the names. But no, that's gonna be exciting. I'll be this time 7. They got a few. It's a thoroughbred race. It's gonna be an interesting one. They got a horse that Florida Derby runner-up back March 29th, and then they got a horse that has 3 first place and a 3rd place in Grade A racing. He's the favorite, Journalism. So no, it'll be fun to watch, lose a little money, maybe win a little money. Who knows? Who knows?
Let's see here. Sandman. Ooh, great horse name.
Sandman, Arkansas Derby winner. His is
Chunk
the
of Gold.
3rd. Like
Great
what?
name.
What are these?
American Promise, Admire Daytona, the Luxor Cafe. What?
Like what
I think I
exactly?
had coffee there last week.
May have, yeah.
I do think that my favorite is just Rodriguez. Like that's a great, like that's a nickname for anybody.
Rodriguez, he's actually he is the son of the 2020 Derby.
Oh, see, there you go.
if
I
you're
picked good horses.
12-1 odds there, it could be in the blood.
I will
Grow up so fast.
They
He grew
do.
up so fast.
They do.
I will be rooting along for whatever horse you pick, and I will not watch a single second of this.
My horse this weekend, I got 2. You can bet for who wins, who places, and who shows. I think win is obviously first, place is first or second, show is first, second, or third. So I think these 2 horses are going to show up in there for me, and it's going to be Sovereignty, and it's going to be actually Luxor Cafe.
Okay.
Luxor Cafe's son, American Pharaoh, who won the Triple Crown in 2015. So that's going to be my 2 picks this weekend. See
Okay.
how many more I throw down.
We'll have to check back and see it.
Absolutely.
How those did. Well, fellas, this was a blast. Definitely getting our picks wrong about the NFL, and not talking about Shador Sanders for an hour.
Couldn't be us.
We'll leave it there. We'll catch you guys next time.
Awesome. Later.